Heavy flooding has caused death and destruction in Kariega and Nelson Mandela Bay. 11 people were confirmed dead and many were left homeless after torrential rain wreaked havoc, damaging bridges, roads and buildings. This week on Pulse, we look at the aftermath of the floods as Kariega residents start counting the cost of the floods. The Rademeyer family gathered at their grandmother Bernadette Rademeyer's house in Kariega to celebrate their one-year-old's birthday. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon, but what was meant to be a day of celebration ended in tragedy when the light rain turned into a torrential downpour for 2 hours. The family tried their best to ward off the water, but finally it overwhelmed them, rushing into their home, destroying everything in its path, making it impossible to live there now.
It was Saturday night, and it was my first daughter's birthday party here, and I was on my way home, and my mother came out to check if the cab is outside. When she got outside, she saw that the water is about this high on the stoop. So she just turned around to get a blanket to put by the door so that the water don't come into the house. When she turned around to get a blanket, she put the blanket down, turned around again, 15 seconds. Wow, the flood came. All we could do was to run to the back, grab cell phones, what we could, baby bottles, and run to the back to my sister's room. That's the last room in the house before you get the kitchen door. We were stuck there for like 3.5 to 4 hours. The water was by my shoulders. I had my baby daughter, 1 year old in my one side. She was standing in the kitchen trying to keep the back door open so that the flood water can go through. My sister was by her room window. She and her friend Shanae throwing out the water and another guy, Junaid. But then we had to come back to the front because on the other side of the house, there's a servant's quarter and there's a lady there. She's a pensioner already with a disabled granddaughter, another granddaughter and 2 babies. So we had to break open the burglar. We don't know where the strength came from because they were floating already to get them through. Because it wasn't even like 10 minutes after that whole wall broke down. But we all were in the back room trying to get out the water, trying to get help, but no one could come in to come and help us. The other children, we had to turn the bed upside down so that they can be on top of the bed. My other son was hanging onto the burglar bar, the one that was here now, of the window. And all we could do was to start praying. All I told her is, Mommy, ons bid. We started praying, the kids started singing a gospel song, Hy maak 'n weg. The rain stopped. And that's the only way how we could throw out some of the water through the windows out by the kitchen door. When the water came down about our hips, my mother and my sister could come to the front to scream for help. But there was help outside, but they could not come in to come and help us. The water was too high and too strong. They came in, they got us out, and we went to another lady in the street. She gave us shelter to sleep for the night, soaking wet. And we could only go up to my place on Sunday morning. My mother is staying by me. I'm living in Rosedale. I've got a 2-bedroom house, so we all packed in there because they've got nowhere to go. Before I go there, years ago, my grandfather was alive, and he always told us, we need to move here. The municipality said they're going to relocate them. I wasn't even born because it's not safe to stay here, but they done nothing. Nothing happened. It did flood already, but not like this. It was like a few years ago on a Christmas day. But it was like here by my knees or a bit higher, but not like this. You see, so now we are waiting from the government to say, what is the plan forward now with him? Because she can't live here again. She won't be able to live here again with her grandchildren and her one daughter because they are traumatized. The one grandchild we asked her now, told her we're coming down. She said no, she can't come here. She doesn't want to come here.
Just across the main street from Jubilee Park is a neighborhood called Kaba. 66-year-old Daniel Jansen and his family live here. He was at home with his grandchild when heavy rain started to pour down, measuring 230 millimeters in 2 hours. As the water levels rose, he tried to keep his family calm as they tried to stop the water from flowing into their home. But to no avail, as the water surged into the house, Jansen says his main concern at the time was to ensure the safety of his grandchild. He now wonders how they're going to overcome this tragedy.
Toen vaderboot opstroomt bij die trampelmos. Toen staan we terug. Toen zei bij die kleinkant die water inkomt. We terug gaan, toen komt veel water door. Je was skielik. De water begon opstoot. Like this. And I was holding the baby. Nee? I thought it's kalmeer. Don't panic. Just be calm. Because the water is rising more now, see? Hey, my broer. Wat bij lelijk. Ik was tot bij mij pokken private parts was wet, wat water nee.
So where did you go after the water got too bad?
When the water flowing to the town nee, hè? Toen het water begon lager, toen kon het daarom teer gaan. Toen kon ze baberij oma ook in die pad. Om Louis nee. Toen kon het teer gaan daar naartoe. Toen het water begon, toen de regen bedaar. Toen bedaar je water op ons.
Can you tell us about the fridge and the kitchen, the fridge like that?
It was drifting. Sorry. The couches, the beds, the fridges, the deep freeze, everything was floating on the water. My panic was about this baby, the small one. That was my main concern was. I didn't care what my situation was. Only the baby. I'm worrying the water's rising. It was my main concern about everything that very day.
Thank you.
You see?
Thank you.
I also got children and small children. You see? I'm turning 66 now. That's my concern.
Not far away lives Peter Alexander with his family. They live in this structure that is built opposite a river. When the rain started to pour on Saturday afternoon, Alexandra started to watch the water levels rise in the river. When it finally burst its banks, he told his family to brace themselves as the water rushed in, tearing down their home. He managed to help his family escape the flood, but his home and possessions were destroyed.
Saterdag het 'n groot ramp ons getref wat ons wat ons nie verwag het nie, maar ons het geweet dit gaan gebeur want ons bly in 'n rivierzoon. En so net na 9 het die water baie sterk opgestyg en ek het vir die kinders gesê luister, ons sal moet gereed maak om te vlug uit die dinge uit en dit was so vinnig gebeur. En jy weet in 'n oogwink tyd toe moes ek vir die vrou en die kinders sê luister, jy weet nog in die huis is, luister ons sal moet uit die huis uitvlug. En want ons is in gevaar. En ons kon net betyds uitvlug en ek sê vir my middelseun, hy het nog drie seuns by die ouma 84 jaar is 'n klein dogter, né? En ek sê vir hom vat sommer die kinders deur die venster. En as die kinders deur die venster geneem en so sê ek draai nou terug en gaan kyk waar is die ouma. Want ons roep na oudste seun, Diaken Johannes Jafta, maar gelukkig het ons hom gekry en hulle kom met die ouma en die ander kleinseun Dylan. Hulle kom met haar deur die dinge. So toe moes ons by die agterjaard moes ons uitvlug. En ek het basies alles wat water reg deur die huis gekom en ek het een van julle assistente in die huis ingeneem om te kyk dat sy nou self jy weet met haar jy weet net self sien watter skade het ons. Daar's niks as omgekeer. Alles die beddens, alles is die kaste. Die wardrobes is nog niet. Die eerste wat gegaan het, is die yskas wat geval het. Hy het sommer uitgeval en gedryf van elke dinge. Die water het deurgebreek by die meisiekinders se kamer en alles waar my hoofslaapkamer, alles ek het daar ingeneem. Daar's niks wat oorgebly het nie. En ons is swaar getref met die tragedie wat ons getref het.
And have you received any assistance from the councillor or your government, anyone?
Nee. Ek het ons het geen bystand gekry van die kanselier. Hy was nog geen kanselier gewees nie. Hulle gaan rondom ons en alle dinge. Ek daar mense wat ek by die kerk, by die NG Kerk by werk, Louis Joubert en Pieter Boorta het kom kyk en Richard, ek ken nou nie Richard se van nie, hulle het kom kyk, hulle het kospaarsie gebring en toiletpapier gebring en Louis Joubert het vir my 'n kombers gebring en ek is dankbaar daaroor en ek is regtig dankbaar daaroor vir kinders van die Here wat kan uitreik na kinders van die Here en die wat verstaan jy wat ons vir mekaar omgee en ek is baie bly en vir julle ook. Ons is baie bly dat julle vandag hierdie program opneem om te kyk kom ingekom het om kom kyk jy weet die tragedie wat ons getref het. Ons waardeer dit ja. Baie dankie daarvoor. En die mense aangekom wat vir ons ek weet nog nie wie is hulle nie. Ek kan nie hulle het vir ons komberse kom gee en dit 'n bakkie klaar voorbereide voedsel gegee vir ons gegee. Ons sê ons daarvoor ook dankbaar. Baie dankie jong mense. Die Here seën. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Johanna Grohl, one of the Kabah residents, was making her way home from work on Saturday afternoon in heavy rains. She arrived minutes before water started gushing into her house. She says all she could do was get her 2 children out of the house to safety as they watched the water levels rise, destroying everything in their house. She says she is now seeking assistance from the government to rebuild her home and replace her possessions.
Saterdag toe ek die werk het, kom dit mos maar nou so gereën hè. Toe ek die werk het, kom dan lê ek so bietjie agtermiddag en ek staan toe die aand op en ek wil iets gaan maak om te eet. Maar iets sê vir my ek moet nou bietjie na die voordeur toe kom. I have to look net there by the sliding door and then I see the water come like a flood, but not like soos in die hele yard vol, but daai kant. En ek gaan roep my kinders, ek sê vir hulle, they must come and take a pic here because it's something is busy to happen outside. But I'm not worried that time. But I go and call my one daughter and the other one say, no mom, I'm not going to stand up now, I'm sleeping. But when I come back, the water comes so far, like in the yard, but not on the stoop that moment. And all of a sudden I saw the water come on the stoop and then my one daughter say, mommy look here, and the water come through the sliding door and that styg net so vinnig in minutes. And then the water cut me like this. As you can see in my house, how far was the water, and I've lost almost everything in my house. Now I want to ask what the government gonna do with us now with that situation, because the whole street was underwater and everyone in the street lost almost everything. No one was here from the officials. No one was here. Only the Patriotic Alliance was here by us.
Kabah, where Johanna lives, is surrounded by stormwater pipes which were damaged by the torrential rain and contributed to the flooding of many homes in the area. Residents here are now looking to the local municipality for help. Nelson Mandela Bay residents are counting the cost of the floods after 10 people died in KwaNobuhle, Kamesh, Kabeko Park, Chatti and Woma. Pelokazi Brown, the mother of Aluta, fights to hold back her tears as she remembers her 3-year-old toddler drowned in the floods. The 32-year-old mother was alone at home in KwaNobuhle in Kariega when the water started to rapidly rise and she realized she needed to run for safety. She wrapped her 3-year-old tightly on her back and grabbed her 9-year-old son's hand and started to wade through the water. What happened next was tragic.
Andiziva right too. Ndiziva ndirongo ingqondo yami rongo. As a special mandilala ndivala amehlo kuvele kubuye zonke za memories. Ndinalambono walamanzi ngela xesha ndiguquleka ndizamulwa nesikhalo somntana that time esithi mama siyawa kanti kuhamba kwakhe. So andibe right but ndiyazama uziqinisa, but when it comes ndicinga ndivele ndibe wrong uqithi.
The Brown family and friends mourned the passing of their beloved daughter Alota at an intimate funeral in Khayelitsha. She was described as an energetic, charismatic, inquisitive child who had a bright future ahead. The family expressed their gratitude and appreciation to the community of Khayelitsha and Nelson Mandela Bay officials who helped them pay the funeral costs. The family spokesperson Sandile Konono highlighted how flooding is a common occurrence in this area and appealed to the municipality to fix the damage to the infrastructure quickly to prevent a tragedy like this from happening.
Uhulumende bezile MEC Mrs. Fanda from Mebhisho washiya ke uncedo olukhulu efamily, wenza umahluko omkhulu. No councillor basupport kakhulu, nenkonzo zalapha eTinarha zonke zisupport kakhulu. Yonke le veki inkonzo bezihamba different churches bezisupport kakhulu. Uhulumende wenza kakhulu afuna uxoka. Nami surprised bohulumende enze ngohlobo. Even the funeral iqala yona uhulumende. I think infrastructure inolungiswa uhulumende to make sure bangaba ezi drain aqale kwenzeka into efana nekulakhaya amanzi angene endlini. kwesithathu ngoku, but this time aze nodlolwazana kumntana omncinci, so idlo infrastructure ayikho right.
Another area not far from the Brown family lived in Kola Street in KwaNobuhle is the community of Duduza in Kariega, which also experienced 2 days of severe rain, which has left the residents homeless. As the community mops up after the floods, the families are left wondering if there will be any help for them, as they have been waiting on the government's RDP house list for years.
Kaloku besihleli ambo besendilele mna kwanetha yatsho imvula igalela ayekungena amathonsi nalapha kule room ndilele kuyo ndavuthwa ngunyana kasiste wam wathi makazi nangamanzi mna ndiyibona ndiphantsi ungene ndaphuma iikawusi zam zimanzi ndiyibonileyo andikangoko ndibonobona kaloku
iqale ngohlwa ngomgqibelo sothuka ekuseni ngecawa seyigalela ngamandla iibhedi sezithe gabhu ngamanzi sekudileka nelidonga lilapha ebheka umama uhlala phaa kubrada wam eGilikengci thina sihlala ubusuku bonke kude kuse apha phakathi endlela siyabasa.
The Benelo family, headed by a 77-year-old blind elderly woman, had their home destroyed by the floods on the 2nd of June. Unable to convey the details of what happened to them, Dombenja Benelwa is left distraught by the ordeal. President Cyril Ramaphosa paid a whistle-stop visit to Kariega, going door-to-door, assessing the damage caused by the flooding. These areas include Lapland, Kaba, Jubilee Park, VW Factory, and the KwaNobuhle Bridge. The president called the flooding a true disaster and extended his sincere condolences to those families that have lost loved ones and those whose homes were destroyed. He assured the community of Kariega that the government will provide temporary housing for those left homeless. He says it will cost around 1 billion rand to rebuild and fix the infrastructure in Kariega.
Now the problem with it all is what we call climate change. Climate change that is now being experienced in South Africa is such that even in summer, in winter we have heavy rains. It never used to happen in the past. It is now happening to us. Usually we have rains in the Western Cape. Now it's happening even in Gauteng, where I stay. We've had heavy rains there as well. And when there is snow in Lesotho, the home of snow, we all get cold, but now it is accompanied by rain. Now the rain causes a lot of disaster and damage. And that's why we are here. That's why we are where we are. Nou, ek weet dat het groot damage gedoen hier in hierdie plek. Nou, the government, die regering moet kom help. En die regering gaan help. Ek kan julle vertel dat die regering gaan julle almal help. Soos julle gehoor het, die minister van behuising het gesê, ja, sy is baie jammer, ons het nie gou help gebring nie. Maar ons gaan dit bring, and within 30 days, we will have provided temporary housing for those who have lost their houses within a period of 30 days. In the meantime, we will have accommodation for those who have been displaced. And we are grateful. We're grateful that we have our churches. En ek wil net baie dankie sê vir die kerk hier dat hulle het deurgekom het om die mense te help. We say thank you very much. We thank you very much. Ons wil ook baie dankie sê For other mensen soos as the gift of the givers. The gift of the givers, hulle is baie goed. Hulle roer baie goed when there are disasters like this. And in a way, they move faster than us in government. Hulle waai sommer gou. En ons sê baie dankie vir hulle. They do so because they are small, they are nimble, and then hardloop baie goed. Ons is baie dankbaar dat ons het 'n organisasie soos the gift of the givers, because they have come to help a great deal. We found that they have helped. They've come in at the right time to provide food. This is what they did. When we went to some of the stores around to say, oh, Pick n Pay, can you help me? Checkers, can you help me? To say help for ons. Nee, gift of the givers was al klaar hier. Julle is laat. Julle is baie slim. Hulle het al klaar hier gekom om help te kom vra. So we thank gift of the givers, but ons sê ook baie dankie na hulle, want ons werk saam. We work together in many other places, even overseas. As you might know, we also go to a place like Gaza, in Palestine, in the Middle East. Where we go, they also are already there, helping many other people who are suffering. So ons sê baie dankie to gift of the givers for the work that they do. Now, coming back here to government, the Premier and the people in the MEC's office in the government here in the Eastern Cape were briefing me this morning. And they tell me that the damage is quite extensive. It runs into billions and billions of rands. When we assess it, we now assess it that it might even be 5 or 6 billion rand.
Government officials hit the ground running, doing what they can to help residents in distress. Over 1,000 people have been displaced in Nelson Mandela Bay and have been placed in temporary accommodation. Minister of Gokda Thembi Gademeng says the government has granted a provincial state of disaster in the Eastern Cape as the provincial departments continue to provide humanitarian relief and conduct damage assessments of infrastructure.
We granted the provincial state of disaster, which allows at least the Premier, the MECs, from their budgets on disaster, excluding our budget, which is still being assessed, they can be able to respond. And that is why you're seeing the machinery and more human personnel coming for the clearance and support from all the various sectors of departments, social development and all that, to focus into the area. But we are consolidating by Sunday, is a target I've set to the municipality and the province, because you can see we are at the level of not a provincial disaster. It's not the only site that has been affected. It's here, it's Buffalo City, Amatole, all the way the connection between Port St. John's right up to Tongat. It tells you that the strength of the rain was heavy. We are also a bit worried because we're still sitting today with a warning which suggests we could still be having rains at 2% to 4% in the area of the Eastern Cape. So there possibly may be more damages than they are. But all our teams, response, rescue, are on site. But I must appreciate and also really apologize to the people, particularly of here in Karibek. I think our response rate was not up to scratch. It's 72 hours has struck already. But as at the standards of rescue, if there was a person who would have been alive, would have lost his life without me and my team having arrived on time. And that is why our emphasis is on ensuring that the assessment comes with the money. And that is why the due date is not give me a report in 14 days. I have given them up until the Sunday. They have done the preliminary assessment, which is what we have approved, the provincial declaration disaster win, but it does not cover sufficiently all the areas that are supposed to be covered.
In Nelson Mandela Bay, John Qabi, Sarah Batman, Amatole, Buffalo City, and OR Tambo are just some of the major parts of the province that were affected by the flooding. Premier Oscar Mabuyane says it's difficult times and they are hard at work mobilizing officials to help restore the homes, infrastructure, and services to the communities affected in the province. While water and electricity has been restored in many areas, some localities in urban and rural areas are still experiencing power outages as a result of damaged infrastructure.
There are also miracles there that you can think about, how people survived under a very meritorious environment that we cannot explain. The water that was actually ravaging here, it's quite difficult to understand and really fathom, but thanks God that people have survived. We can still restore the livelihood of our people. I'm mobilizing everybody. I'm mobilizing soldiers in the province. I'm mobilizing correctional services. Some of these, they don't need tenders. They just need artisans and everybody. So if we have got artisans in our inmates and all people who are trained, get everybody out of that. They come and help us as quick as possible to avoid any likely outbreak. There's a likely outbreak here. If you see the damage that has been caused, even those who are staying in their community halls and churches, there are likely outbreaks there. So we've got to move with speed, and I'm happy that Human Settlement is on board. They're just waiting for land parcels. Municipality, I said, they must convene a council, identify lands, declare lands available, so that we put up TRUs as a matter of agents. We move people and restore their own family kind of life they have, whether it is in a temporary shelter or not. But others are keeping here. Security issues, we are addressing them. We've got to protect this. We've got to cordon off this so that those who are trying to vandalize, ones who are busy addressing the disaster, they are also being pushed back.
The government welcomed the support of non-governmental organization Gift of the Givers, who sent their emergency teams in to help the community of Kariega. The NGO helped 3,000 families with hot meals, bottled water, blankets, and other humanitarian aid in the town. The floods have damaged the town's water and electricity infrastructure, leaving the residents with no running water or power. Residents of Kwanabudle spent hours queuing every day with buckets to collect water from the NGO's water tankers.
We immediately dispatched teams from George, from Cape Town, to come and do assessments and ensuring this community is taken care of. Within the first 24 hours, we set up 12 soup kitchens, dispatched our water tankers from Adelaide to be here on site to deliver water and other humanitarian aid to this community. This community has not had any electricity since Sunday, no water, no electricity. We saw the dire situation of the 77-year-old blind granny inside, where they informed us they've been living in this condition since Sunday. We are very happy for local NGOs here we've been supplied ingredients and have been taking care of the community in terms of hot meals. We, in this area alone, in the Kwanabudle area, we distribute 100,000 liters of water per day. There's a local hospital called Kaila Hospital. They had no water since Sunday, and every day, that's our first priority, not to ensure there's no interruption in the health sector. We are providing 60,000 liters of water per day, and our humanitarian aid goes not only in this area. We are busy in the Kwibeja area as well. We are busy in the Buffalo City municipality area. So the operation is ongoing. We are still on the ground doing that vital assistance to many of those communities affected, especially those in the shelters as well.
Working at the South African Weather Service for over 40 years, retired weather guru Garth Sampson shares his knowledge of what occurred to cause the natural disaster in Kariega. He says Nelson Mandela Bay is situated in a very dry region and has a cyclical pattern of drought and floods. Kariega has been in a serious drought for 12 years, and the last time the city experienced flooding was in 2012. Research shows that drought occurs before and after disastrous floods in the Bay Area. Kariega received over 100 millimeters of rain in the recent floods, and 200 to 300 millimeters of rain was measured overnight in Kariega.
We rely on floods to fill our dams. We will never get our dams full. We usually get between 1.5 and 2.5 cut-off lows that are in the right position at the right time, with all other factors being the same. Between 1.5 and 2.5 a year. So that is when you get 50 millimeters and above in 24 hours over our catchment. If you go back to 68, the majority of the flood was 400 mils between 8 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 400. Double of what you today can had in 24 hours. Floods are a part of the life of the bay, but we haven't had them for so long. And like I say, if you listen to climate change experts, they say the next floods are going to be even worse. The scary fact is they're long overdue. Well, we should get a major flood, like 68, 81, and 1908, once every 33 years. Add 33 to 81, what do you get? And we overdue. We get a major flood, a minor flood, and all of them. We overdue for a flood. I'm talking a flood, what I always like to say, those floods of biblical proportion. We are overdue for it. If you look at those photographs on the wall there, the entire Human was washed away. The bridge over Happy Valley, it was gone.
Garth says residents must take note to the South African Weather Service warnings of possible extreme weather conditions coming up so they can prepare for the next torrential downpour.
Firstly, you must be proactive. It doesn't help listening to a warning 2 hours before the time. There is no time to prepare. Number one, and I always like to distinguish between an affluent area and a non-affluent area. If you've got like a proper house with proper structure, proper walls, make sure your gutters are clean. Make sure your walls around your boundary walls have got drainage holes and they are clean, so that you don't form a dam in your on your premises. Number two, if you've got water tanks and there's a warning for heavy rain, empty them. Because then you catch in that water. That water is not lying around. So listen to the warning. They say you're going to have tremendous rain tonight. And you've got water tanks. Water tanks aren't only to save water. Water tanks can control flooding also. Listen to warnings. Stay off the roads. The biggest problem is people get stuck in their motor cars. They get washed away. When you come to a low-lying bridge, most people in this recent flood in Kariga and Uitenhage lost their lives because they were trying to cross the rivers. Firstly, if you're in a motor vehicle and there's a low bridge, if you cannot walk it, don't drive it. Number two, if you see those little cement pillars on the side, if it's over that, don't even try and walk it. And if you walk it with a stick. Then you can drive. Because you don't know if there's a big hole in the ground there. You don't know what is happening underneath that, underneath the bridge or the low water thing. So that is a big, very important thing. As far as authorities go, they must check all building regulations. People building walls or structures in the flow of water, the free flow of water, where it's supposed to run through a gutter or a sluice or whatever. That causes a lot of complications on flooding. Allowing people to build shacks, temporary dwellings, or whatever in low-lying, flooded areas. They must take action immediately. And all political parties must come to the party and not try and say, play the political game, play the human game. Get those people out there. It might seem cruel to break a person's shack down, but you're saving his life.
50-year-old George Moni and his wife and 6 children are being housed temporarily at the URC Ebenezer Church in Kariega after his home was destroyed by the floods. Moni says his home is situated near an incline road where water poured down, gushing into his house, breaking his back door. He says he's in the process of repairing some of the damages to his house, but his priority right now is to ensure his family receives daily meals.
My house, you see at the back of my house, it's like there's something like going down there. It's like a little hill. So the water come in at the back of my house and go at the front out. Now we're trying to get it dry. And so there was something there wrong also because the door at the back is gone now because of that flood. I come to church, they send me here so I can get a food parcel. My first day here, I was 2 days I was here. That day when Cyril Ramaphosa was here, I was here. They tell us they're going to help us. And now I'm at the church. I'm waiting for food parcel. I have a wife, 5, 6 children. My oldest child is 17, like I tell SABC TV. I'm still struggling. My life is still going nowhere. Because at the age of 15, who's going to give me work? Nobody's going to give me work. So I think I'm going to struggle a little bit after this devastating thing that we had here. It's the second time. I tell also SABC that 1996, the same thing happened. I was staying in Lapland. I moved to other part of Rosedale, so it's the same thing. I'm at my parents' house. This house does not belong to me because I run to that house. I think it's going to be safe there, but if you can go there, you're going to see the doors. It's off now. I'm standing in the churchyard. I have children that is 17 years who's getting this thing like woman stuff. And I need pets and something like that to give to my children because I cannot afford at this moment. And I would like for my children to have a life that we had before. But this thing is now so that we're not going to have that life anymore. We are here now and we must accept it. And that's why I accept what is happening. It's not human. This is from God or the forces up there. So I understand. I can do nothing. Government is trying helping. The church is trying helping. And I'm so grateful for this church because lots of people are going with food parcels, clothing. And I want to thank everybody who's out there. Please, don't forget this church. Don't forget Kariga. I'm coming from a place that is more than 200 years old, but I'm situated in Utrecht now. And I want to send to everybody out there, please help these people of Kariga. It's our second time we're in this thing. And so I'm sending back a message again out to everybody who listen and see this video. Please help these people of Utrecht. If you're going to Gamble Street High School, you're going to see houses being overflooded. People's houses, cars is laying there. Quantums is laying. So it was a big thing for us.
George is one of the 250 people who were displaced by the floods and taken in temporarily by the URC Ebenezer Church. The church is feeding over 600 families in Ward 48 who were affected by the floods. Domini Mark Manessa says the aid is still ongoing, ensuring the community of Kariega is safe and well.
When we started that Sunday, the first Sunday, we got hot meals from all over. People started coming, giving us clothes and so forth. And eventually on that Sunday, the first day of the flood, after the flood, we provided about 3,000 meals. And then from the Monday onwards, the number just escalated. We had more than 4,000 meals provided to the various points, to the community, as well as giving people blankets, as well as giving people mattresses where they needed, as well as giving people toiletries, all those type of things that they were in need of. But the most important thing was food that we had to get to the community. Apart from getting food to the community, in the 4 centers that were operational in terms of housing people, we had about more than 600 displaced people. Here we had more than 250 people staying. At the Moravian Church we had people staying. We had people staying at Sunshine School. Those people were eventually moved to UPC in Kersogie. And then we also had people at Kaba Hall. that were staying there. Those people had to be looked after on a daily basis. They got breakfast, lunch, and supper for the duration that they were here up until the weekend, when the government systems kicked in and they were taken to the shelters that the government provides. The operation is still going on. We are still getting in promises that people made last week. And what has happened is we have managed to, as of today, not counting in tomorrow and Friday, we've already provided food parcels for 600 families. We have provided clothing parcels for more than 600 families. We have distributed in excess of 300 to 400, 500 blankets, which we've received. And we are still providing on a daily basis meals for more than 3,000 people out there. That is where we are at. It is all grace. It is all because when we started, we were at zero, and we could sustain this. I think this is day 11, and we are still going. And we are projecting that on Friday, God willing, we will reassess and then see how we will continue further. But as long as we have, we will continue to have this operation going.
With many families left displaced, officials together with local guest houses offered temporary accommodation to those who lost homes. One of the B&Bs in Kariega has taken in 42 people. 37-year-old Richard Peterson, who's been living in Upland for 5 years, has taken refuge here. He is used to living alone, but now is sharing a room and a bed with 2 other people. Peterson says he is grateful to have accommodation. He says they will be staying in the guest house until the end of this month. He says the government then promised to move them into another accommodation.
I was falling asleep. The guys came, hit my door. Hey, Rasta, you must come out now. Came out, I help other people, with the children, running from the floods. And then the flood water started to minimize, you see. We sleep at the church in Olaplan. And in the morning, policemen was coming there and they were taking us to the NG URC church in Bloekenboom Street. While we were there, they were giving us food, clothes and shelter, see, helping the babies, old people and so on. And after that, the president was addressing us there and tell us he wanna relocate us to other places. So the president came and speak to us, the premier were there, the mayor, the council, everyone. And then after a day or two, buses were coming, people were relocating to B&Bs, such as stuff like this. And while we were here, the premier and the councillor, they bring us food, also clothes, and making sure that we are okay. So they came every day, every morning, every midday and every night, coming here, taking care of us.
This was the town's biggest flood disaster that took many lives and destroyed many homes. The community of Kariega are still dealing with their new reality, trying to piece together what is left of their lives. They live in hope that the government will come to their aid and provide them with proper housing and quickly fix the damage to the infrastructure to help restore their town of Kariega to its former glory.